So in May of 2024, I first started the carnivore diet. I came to it because I was just experimenting with my diet, honestly, and I just wanted to see what worked for me, how I felt, and I just made a commitment in May of 2024 to stick to it for a full year, be like really strict about it because I up until that point in my life, I had never really stuck to a diet. I had done the whole like whatever fits your macros sort of thing. I had done like meat and fruit, but all of that stuff, it never really was like a long-term fix. I never experienced the benefits the same way that I did on carnivore, and that's why I've stuck to it for almost a year now. But along the way, I've made a lot of mistakes on this diet, and I want to share those with you today, just so you know like what to avoid, and so maybe you can start off on a stronger, like the stronger foot, if that makes sense, than I did. Because even with, I mean, to be honest, I still felt great even making all these mistakes because I really believe that the carnivore diet is just it's a great thing that you can do if you're struggling with things. But if you want to get to an even higher level, which I think I've now gotten to by overcoming these mistakes, then this is the right video. Anyways, my name's Keegan. I talk about diet and fitness and stuff, mostly low carb, keto stuff. And yeah, so if you want to check out the links in the description or subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. That's how you can support me. Anyways, these are the mistakes that I've made on the carnivore diet for the 9-ish months so far that I've been on it. So yeah, the first one though is not doing it sooner. So I actually learned about the carnivore diet. I said I started in May of 2024, but I learned about it in like December of 2023. So I learned about it a good 5, 6 months before I actually started it fully. I did a couple days here and there, but the thing with it though is like you can do a diet for like 2 or 3 days, like one to 3 days, and you don't really see that big of an effect. Like you'll see some effect depending on how like drastically different it is from your normal diet. And that's what I did is like I tried it for a few days, but I never saw like it's like okay, I just feel basically the same. The thing with it though is like if you do it for a longer period of time, you start feeling more of the effects because your body starts clearing stuff out. You're not eating like you're not eating just garbage anymore. Um, but yeah, not doing it sooner, I think, was one of the biggest mistakes that I've made, or not trying it like fully sooner. Because if I had done that sooner, one, I would have experienced the vast amount of benefits that I've experienced, like more mental clarity, better energy, my digestion is better. Um, I just so overall my experience of life has improved. My overeating issues resolved. And I still eat like a king every day. So I would have experienced those benefits sooner had I just started it sooner. Like if you read about it or you watch content about it, just try it. Like if you're watching this video and you haven't tried it yet, just try it for like a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. Right? I think 30 days is like the sweet spot for just kind of figuring out if it works or not. It gives you a big enough time period to actually see if it works or not, right? So, yeah, just like my advice to my younger self would be just start it. Just see how you feel now and just go through it for like 30 days and see how you feel. And if you want to come off it and you're like, this isn't for me, okay, cool. But start it now. Like stop thinking about it. I think this can be broadly applied like everywhere in life too. Stop thinking about the thing and just do it. That's the best way to close off the loop and figure it out if it actually does work. Like you can read all of the studies in the world, but if you don't try it for yourself, then does it really matter at all? Like the most important thing that matters is the experiment of your own life, if that makes sense, right? It doesn't matter what some piece of paper or what some person says. Like if you find it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you and you don't like it. Like it's fine. But start it now, experiment. That's what I'd give. That's the advice I would give to my younger self, and that's probably the biggest one. So I could figure out the rest of these mistakes. And so the second mistake that I made a lot, or in the beginning stages, was I consumed dairy. And a couple of the things on this list generally have to do with stuff that you shouldn't consume on it as well. But technically, like, still kind of works with it. But yeah. Anyways, dairy. So dairy technically you could say is like carnivore because it's animal based. It's like it's from a cow or a goat or whatever, wherever you get your dairy from, right? Um, but the thing with dairy though is there's a couple of things with it. So I've learned that dairy, it has carbs. I mean, if you look at a milk jug, it has carbohydrates in it. And that's what you're trying to kind of get away from on a carnivore diet is you're trying to get into like ketosis and that sort of thing. But if you eat carbohydrates, that stops the ketosis. And so it's kind of just like, what's the point there, right? And also dairy just in general, along with the carbohydrates, they also have this, I think it's called like a casomorphine, but it's basically like this milk. It's like this drug thing in the milk that makes you want to have more. And I think the reason for it is because that plus the carbs basically won't make a baby, whenever they're drinking the mother's milk or whatever, to have more so they grow faster, right? But we don't need that, as we're kind of growing up because like we're already, people. We don't need to gain a ton of weight super duper fast. And the only way you gain weight super duper fast really is is like fat gain, and that's no way. No. But overall it just makes you eat more than you probably should, right? I think that's kind of the baseline, and that's what I experienced a lot of whenever I didn't do milk because I'm not like a child anymore. I don't drink milk. um, but cheese was a big thing. I still have cheese on occasion, but it's not nearly as much as I used to have. Like in the beginning stages for like the first 3 months or so, whenever I'm on carnivore, right? I was still eating, these like slices of cheese, but I would have like more and more, and it was kind of this almost like drug like compulsion that you have with overheating carbohydrates, and I didn't like that, so I was like, I probably shouldn't eat this much cheese. Sure, it's tasty. I'll give you that, and if you like cheese and you find that it doesn't that you don't really overeat it, fine. Like it's cool. Like it doesn't have anything super nefarious in it, but just be aware of that if you're gonna go on that. That's the advice I'd give my younger self. Just be like aware of the dairy and just kind of limit it, but you do you. If you want to keep the dairy in, by all means, keep it in. Just be aware of it though. Like it can have carbs. It can be like habit forming, addictive almost. Yeah. The next thing though that I made a big mistake on for a while actually, and I learned this only a couple months ago, was processed meats. So meats like bacon and sausages, those sorts of things, cured meat, processed meats, they're mixed in with other things. So like bacon, I think it can be cured with like salt and stuff, but sometimes it's also cured with like bacon, or it has not bacon, like the bacon. It can be cured with like some sugar and some like there's stuff that's put into these cured meats or these processed meats that technically aren't carnivore, and it can influence how much you eat of them, and it can influence your hunger signals. So I experienced this personally whenever I was eating like bratwurst and stuff. Like we had a good deal of bratwurst in the freezer before, and I would just kind of have those like every, I don't know, every few weeks, every like once a week or something like that, just because we had a lot of them. And I wasn't aware of that, but and yet I always ended up kind of eating more than I probably should have. And I get with the whole overeating thing, like, yeah, there is a level of control that you kind of have to like impose on yourself, I guess. But I don't think that's how it should work. Like, you shouldn't have to force yourself to stop. Your body should tell you, like, hey, like, you're good, bro. You don't need to eat anymore. But that didn't happen with the bratwurst. But that does happen whenever I'm eating stuff that's you know, not processed, like just like straight up steak or eggs and stuff like that. There's like, it's kind of like self-limiting in a way that the processed meats are not. So even whenever we're making like breakfast sausage and stuff, it's just like I could eat this forever. And the reason for that is because they mix spices in with the pork or whatever's in your sausage, and they mix sugar. And sugar, I mean, that's the thing that we're trying to kind of get away from on this diet. But if you're adding that in, then it's probably gonna affect you affect you in some way. And so just be aware of that, right? Like again with this, if you want to keep sausages in, like okay, fine, whatever. I've just found that I feel better without them, and I want to actually do this carnivore thing, 100% correctly. And like I said, I feel better without the dairy. I feel better without the processed meats. So I'm just gonna cut them out. And so I just want you to be aware of that. If you're not feeling like the best or whatever, like you have to really examine the food that you're eating, because it can sneak, like it's like insidious almost, like it just sneaks in there. So just be aware of that with like sausages and other processed meats, that there can be other stuff in there that isn't, you know, carnivore diet technically. So even if you're eating like, mostly meat, that processed meat can still, like the stuff within the processed meat can still mess you up, you know. Anyways, the next thing is spices. So I kind of talked about this a little bit in the processed meat. They'll add some like spices and stuff, but every once in a while I'll eat something that my mom makes, and she'll still put spices and stuff on it, and like she'll like cook vegetables um, with the roast sometimes. I mean, like I'm the one in my family that's like super strict on carnivore. They're just kind of doing their own things, so I just kind of have to deal with that. And I'm grateful that my mom does make dinner, but it's like sometimes I kind of just have to avoid that, because spices still do affect me. I found, um, I like not in a super severe way, but they still affect me, and I'd rather just not have that in my diet. So yeah, spices are a big one, because it can. I mean, they're literally like the reason why they are super, I guess, stimulating, or you can have like a burst of like flavor. It's because the spice is typically like the actual like plant defense chemical that you generally should be avoiding. But we've convinced ourselves in our brains that that spicy feeling that makes us kind of tear up sometimes, or like sweat, or our nostrils runny, and just like, oh, that's hot. We somehow have brainwashed ourselves into thinking like, oh yeah, that's great. That's a great thing for our body. When in reality, it's your body like trying to like reject this thing. I think that the best example of this is if you're not used to eating super spicy things like I am, and then you try and eat a jalapeno pepper, you're gonna cough up and just like start dying, because the seeds and just the plant in general doesn't want you to eat it. And I mean, that's why it's spicy, is because that's the chemical basically telling your body like, hey, this like I do not belong here. So your body reacts by just trying to expel it by getting moisture and like coughing. I remember one time I tried eating a jalapeno pepper just like whole. It was at a jalapeno uh, pepper contest. It's for like this Hispanic dance thing that at my school, and so I tried that, and I had the reaction that you would expect a gringo such as myself would have. I was coughing. This was before I was on carnivore, so I was like just chugging, chugging the chocolate milk that was at the school, like trying to like flush out my system. It was awful, dude. It was terrible. But just spices in general, I think they're not really a net positive. So that's a mistake that I've made before, and I would tell my younger self like, hey, just cut out the spices. Your digestion will be slightly better. Your energy will be slightly better. I found mostly it just kind of affects my digestion a little bit, whether that's gas from like garlic or it's just like slower digestion because there's, some, I don't know, some weird plant powder on the meat. So just make sure you're not having any spices, because honestly, like, the meat should taste good on its own, right? Unless you're eating like rotten meat or something, which you probably shouldn't be. The meat should taste fine on its own, and that's how you kind of tell if you're hungry or not. It's how good it tastes. It's not based on like, oh, I'm super hungry. It's based off like, does it taste good? It's like it's a different hunger signal, and spices kind of mess that up. But yeah, the next mistake that I made, actually, and this was recently, was I tried adding in supplements to my regime or whatever. So I thought, because it's winter time, I'm not going outside as much, I should probably get some vitamin D. Just try it out, see how it works for me, right? Tried it, and I'll also say this: I did add in some vitamin C, and and no, it wasn't because I was getting scurvy. It was because so I'm an athlete, and I'm kind of recovering from an injury right now, and it's a tendon injury. And what I've learned, and this is also the reason why you get scurvy, but the thing vitamin C helps you with is like collagen synthesis. But the thing is if you're eating enough meat and eating enough red meat in general, one, you're getting enough vitamin C just from the meat. It's in trace amounts, but you don't need as much if you're not eating any carbohydrates. That's what I've learned. And I haven't gotten scurvy yet. And that was before I even tried the vitamin C stuff. But yeah, I was taking the vitamin C mostly because I thought it would help me heal faster, and it really didn't affect me that much. Like, I tried it for a couple of weeks, and it's just like, this kind of sucks. Not helping me. And the same thing with the vitamin D is I was taking it, like, I bought it from this really well tested was it like supplement brand or whatever. I got the vitamin D from them. I was having just kind of like regular vitamin C or whatever. And honestly, I didn't feel as good. Like, it wasn't a big drop off, but I just didn't feel as good as I normally did. My digestion was a little bit worse. I was just not feeling so great. And so I was like, not worth it. So I just stopped taking them. And lo and behold, I feel better. And so I don't like even that minuscule amount of like weird stuff they put in the supplements, because with the capsules and stuff, like, they put in some weird stuff. Like, I think the one vitamin D supplement has like rice flour or whatever in it. And it's like, do you really need that? Because you get a ton of vitamins and minerals from meat and eggs. So it's like, do you really need anything else? So yeah, I was just thinking like, I don't think this is worth it. So I just stopped taking them, and I just feel better in general. So I was like, okay, there's really no need for them. But yeah, that's what I got for supplements anyways. I don't think you really need to take any supplements on carnivore. It's not like, there's really no point unless you're having like super deficient meat or something, like you're only eating, I don't know, like chicken breast or something. I don't know. Like, I don't really see a reason why you need to ever supplement on a carnivore diet. There's really, yeah. Like, I really can't see a reason why, unless you're eating like super depleted meat for some reason. Like, that doesn't make any sense, bro. But yeah, just be aware of that. Like, I don't think you really need to supplement. And so don't waste your money on that. Buy more meat instead. Buy better quality meat instead of the supplements, because that's probably going to give you more bang for your buck in terms of like actual nutrition, at least in my opinion. It's honestly like, supplements are kind of a scam, bro. Let's be honest. Like, do they even work that well? What's the sizable effect? How much more are you paying for this like little pill that you could use that money to buy something that's equally as nutritious and gives you energy? Like, you gotta like just weigh it. But yeah, advice to my younger self: you don't need supplements, bro. Just eat red meat, eggs. Like, balance it out. The next thing, and this kind of these last two kind of get into just intake in general, because this is kind of a mistake that I've been working through this entire journey. And so the first thing is salt and water intake. So some people will complain or talk about, like I get cramps or I get, like eye twitches on carnivore diet. Oh my gosh, like electrolytes and stuff because you're not eating carbs. And I've dealt with those things. So the first thing that I'll say to the cramps part is make sure you're not overeating like vitamin A and that sort of thing. So I tried eating like raw liver before, even like 1 ounce, like like after a few months on to this diet. I remember I just had some raw liver, right? Like I tried to get some like grass fed stuff, like, oh yeah, super nutritious, nature's multivitamin. And I figured out like that actually made me cramp more so than when I didn't have it. And the reason that I've learned is that whenever you have too much vitamin A, it can start interfering with electrolytes and whatnot. But just on an experiential like anecdote basis, I cramped either the hours after or the day after I ate liver. And ever since I've stopped eating, like raw liver, I haven't had those problems. So it's like, okay, I'm just not gonna have liver for cramps, anyways. But going on to the salt and water intake thing, I've been experimenting with the salt a lot more recently, and I found like honestly, you don't need that much salt. Like you should be really basing your food intake off of does it still taste good? And it's like kind of like what time it is and whatnot. But don't like don't go crazy with the salt. Like I used to go absolutely ham with the salt. It's okay to not salt your food every once in a while. Like just enjoy the taste of like scrambled eggs. That's what I do now is I used to salt my eggs every single time, and now I'll do it like every other time, every third time now, and I'll just enjoy the taste of the eggs. And the same with the burgers. Like today, I actually got this stain on my shirt whenever I was making it, bro. I was so upset about it. But whenever you're eating food, like you don't have to go ham with the salt. Basically, that's kind of the baseline from what I would say. Don't go ham with the salt. Just salt to taste. That's the that's the advice I received, and I never listened to it. But maybe if you're listening to it now, like just salt to taste, bro. Like it's like don't go crazy with the salt because if you have too much salt, it's going to interfere with your kind of like electrolyte to water balance in your body, and then it's going to be out of whack. And also along with that, just make sure you're drinking enough water. Like just drink when you're thirsty, drink enough water. Like I have this big gallon jug of water that I try and drink around like 3 liters at least of water a day. So like 3/4 of a gallon basically of water a day, maybe more, but at least like 3 liters, 3 quarts, 3/4 of a gallon. So yeah, that's kind of the water intake that I'd say, because yeah, I mean that's just helped me stay cramp free for the longest time. Like I haven't had any crazy cramps. Like I did have some like eye twitches and whatnot, but those have resolved ever since I just took better steps to drink more water and to appropriate the amount of salt that I was eating. So it's just be aware of that as well. Just your water intake and how much salt you're consuming, because you don't need to go that ham. Just go with what works for you, right? And now onto the final mistake that I made on the carnivore diet was my total food intake. So for a while, for the first few months, I kind of went off of just the regular eat until it stops tasting good. And then a few months ago, I stopped that and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to restrict how much I eat to this amount. And then I was getting tired, fatigued. I actually got injured during that time. I mean, I think it was a combination of when I was kind of restricting how much I was eating and the fact that I was overtraining, like overusing the muscle and the tendon. But anyways, I was also eating way too much protein and not enough fat. So the thing is, on a carnivore diet, whenever you're not eating carbohydrates, you're going to be running more on fat, right? But the thing is in order to be kind of satisfied and to get enough nutrients in and that sort of thing, is really the fat that you need to be eating over the protein. So I remember I tried to actually jack up my protein intake a ton, and yet I felt so unsatisfied way more often. And it was because I wasn't getting as many nutrients. Something I've learned is your like digestive tract actually tracks the amount of like protein and fat and minerals and vitamins that you're taking in. And so you'll still be hungry for like specific nutrients if you're not getting enough of them. And so if you're depriving yourself of fat, which has the vitamins in it, like the fat soluble vitamins, if you're eating less of that, then your body's going to tell you like, hey, eat more, eat more. But you're already eating a ton of protein, right? That's the process that I went through. And I was like, why am I still hungry? I had like 300 grams of protein today. I'm still hungry, right? And it's because I just wasn't listening to my body. So listen to your body. Make sure you have enough fat in your diet, right? Yeah, just have enough fat in your diet. Obviously, don't go ham to where you have explosive diarrhea, but have it at a good ratio. So the ratio that works for me generally now is like 30%. If you're gonna go by calories, I think it's like 30 to 70%. If you're doing it by grams, it's like one gram of protein to like 1.5 grams of fat has worked really well for me personally. At least a 1-to-1, if not more, for the fat is how I would go about it. And that's what's worked for me. If you find something else that really works for you and that sort of thing, cool. Also, in regards to intake, I've also found that eating kind of like a lot before bedtime is a really good time to eat. So my bedtime is around like 9 p.m. or so. So eating generally before like 5 p.m., I generally get to digest enough to really go to sleep and like have a good night's rest. This is just kind of like general lifestyle stuff, but I just say like make sure you don't eat a huge meal close to bedtime if you can. And like just eat 1 or 2 meals, whatever works for you, honestly. If you want to do 3 a day, that's cool too. Just do what's best for your sleep, your energy, your digestion, and your general just like lifestyle and stuff. That's how I would go about intake. If you want to track it, like cool. I still like log my food. I don't take it super seriously. I just kind of want to see it like, like I ate 4,000 calories today. And yet I haven't gained like any weight. That's weird. But yeah, yeah, just eat what works for you in the amount that works for you. Eat until like it stops tasting good, or just one meal until you're full. Like I would say one big thing another mistake that I made intake wise was I went off of like, because tasting good it's kind of arbitrary. So, and if you're not like super attuned to the taste like I am, like I'm not super attuned. So I just kind of go off of like, does this taste really good or am I full? Those are the things that I kind of go off of for my intake. And also just how much food's available, you know? But yeah, those were the carnivore diet mistakes that I've made. So if you made it this far in the video, you have a really good attention span and you're really committed to this lifestyle, and you obviously wanted to learn about those things. So respect to you. I really appreciate you making it this far. And yeah, so I hope this video has helped you out. If you want to support me, like I said, links in the description, subscribe, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.